Hello, in this video, we will first discuss Scratch teacher accounts in general, and then we will demonstrate how to set up your Scratch classroom. Once you have a teacher account, you can add classes. The classes can be named and created in a way that best fit with your school environment. This may differ depending on if you're a tech teacher, a classroom teacher teaching one group of students, or a classroom teacher teaching two or more groups of students because you are departmentalized. If you are a classroom teacher and will be teaching the curriculum to more than one group of students, you may want to set up a class for each group of students, as in ECforALL Room 4A, ECforALL Room 4B, or maybe just one class for all students. If you will be teaching the curriculum to only one group of students, you will most likely set up just one class. Within each class, you will set up studios. Studios are like folders that will store all of the student project links for a particular project or assignment. Studios make it easier for you to check to see if all students have completed the project and will also allow you to easily use our studio grader to check to see if project requirements have been met. If you teach multiple groups of students and created one class for all of the students, you may wish to differentiate the studios you set up by including a room number or a class identifier along with the project name, like 4A, Sequence on the Farm, and 4B, Sequence on the Farm. We do, however, recommend naming your studios something that is easy for students to find when they are completing their roar and hiss. Remember, the second S stands for Add to Studio. We provide suggested names for the studios in the teacher guides in both the Quest and Build lesson preparation area. Students will be associated with one class, and they will share their projects to the available studios within that class. Next, we are going to discuss how to begin setting up your Scratch classroom. First, you will need to sign up for a teacher account. Then you can begin adding classes and adding students to your classes, and finally creating studios within your classes. In order to create a Scratch teacher account, if you don't have one already, you can follow this URL link. You'll be prompted to enter a username, which we also call your Scratch ID, and password. Scratch asks that you not use any personal or school identifying information in your usernames. It may also ask you for some personal and classroom information in order to complete the registration. Note that it can, and usually does, take a full 24 hours before the account is activated as a teacher account. The next thing that you'll do is to create or add a class. When I first log into my Scratch teacher account, you'll notice the purple banner up at the top. This indicates that it is a teacher type of Scratch account. I can get to my classes by clicking on the My Classes button, or I can come up to my Scratch username and go down to My Classes. Once I'm inside of My Classes, you'll see that I have several classes already created under my teacher account. Let's say I wanted to create a new class. I come up to the New Class button and click it, and then I can type in my new class name. Let's call it ECforALL. I can add a class description if I choose, and then click Add Class. Notice that it takes me right to the Settings tab for my new class. I can add some information about this class and what this class is working on if I choose to. Now, I'm going to click on my Students tab. There are 3 different ways you can add students to your class. The first way is to add each student individually. This can be time-consuming depending upon the number of students that you will need to add. I find that this method works well when new students join your class in the middle of the year. The second way is to provide or share a sign-up link with students. This is easy to do and share with your students, but you don't have as much control over the Scratch usernames that students will create. And remember, you don't want students using any personal identifying information in their Scratch IDs either. The third way of adding students is to upload a CSV or comma separated value file. I personally like to use this method because it helps me control and keep track of student Scratch usernames. We are going to discuss how you can upload students to your Scratch class using a comma separated value or CSV file. Remember, when creating Scratch usernames, the usernames need to be unique. So if someone has already used that username, you will get an error message when you try to upload that particular Scratch username. I usually try to search for a few of the usernames I intend to use using the Scratch search to see if there are any shared projects associated with these usernames before I upload. So I'm going to type in ECforALL DME. Once I do that and press my enter key, you will see that there is one shared project for that username. So I know that that username already exists and I can't use it. I'm going to try a few others. I'm going to try ABC for the school initials, let's say 2024 for the graduation year, and then just add a student number at the end, 01, and you can see that it shows me nothing found. I'm going to try another one like 09, nothing found, and maybe one more just to make sure, yeah, nothing found. So I'm pretty confident right now that ABC 2024 with a student number at the end may work for my uploads. So I'm going to switch back over to give you a little bit more information about Scratch usernames. Remember that we ask, and Scratch asks, that you don't use any personal identifying information. So no full school names, no full student names, and no full teacher names. Anything that might possibly lead to a certain class, teacher, or student. You can always use initials for the school, initials for the class, initials for the teacher, and then maybe a graduation year or some other information, and then an identifying, unique identifying number. You can only upload 49 students maximum per upload. If you need to upload more than 49 students, you can do your first upload of 49, change the usernames and passwords, and then do another upload of 49 and more, and even more if you need to. I always like to create a test student when I do my first upload with maybe a 00 student ID. And that way I can model for students what certain things look like in Scratch from a student point of view instead of the teacher account point of view. Also try to remember that capital letters are difficult for some students to enter for Scratch usernames and passwords, so you may want to avoid them. All right, with that in mind, I'm going to go over to my Scratch teacher account and try to upload some students. So I'm going to go over to Scratch. You can see that I'm already signed into my teacher account because I have this purple bar here that says teacher account, and I'm going to go into my classes. I created several classes already, and here's the one that I created that I'm going to use here called ECforALL, and I'm going to go to my Students tab. Remember, there are 3 ways to add students, and in this video, we're going to show you how to upload students using a CSV file. When I click on that button, notice it shows me a couple samples of what a CSV file could look like with a Scratch username and password. You can also download an example file or read about it. Scratch set up a setup guide for doing this here. I'm going to actually go to this choose file, but before I can do that and upload my students, I need to set up the Google Sheet, the actual CSV file. So I'm going to switch over to my Canvas account, and I want to show you that we do include this link in our assignment for uploading students using CSV files. If I click on that link, it's going to force me to make a copy of this Google Sheet on my drive, and I can update this now as I wish. So I'm going to try that ABC 2024 4, and then the first student's going to be 0, 0. So ABC is the initials of the school name, 2024, and then 0, 0 for the student's account. I think password 0, 0 is fine, but I want to copy this username down, all the way down, and you'll see as if I go to this lower right-hand corner and click and drag, you can see that all of the usernames get updated and they are incremented by 1 at the end, each one of these, which is kind of what I want to use. So I'm going to keep doing that all the way down so that all of my usernames have that same format of ABC 2024. And I can only do 49 rows. And you notice that this is 48. That's because I had that 0, 0 test student at the top. Okay, I think this looks pretty good now. It's got the username in the first column and the passwords that match that username in the second column. All right, this is good. So now I'm going to click on File and Download. And I'm going to download this file as a comma separated value file or CSV file. So I'm going to click on that. And what that does is it downloads that file as a CSV file in my downloads folder. And so I can see right here that it's done that. So I am going to switch back over to Scratch. And now I can choose my file to upload, which will be in my downloads folder right here. It's the copy of the sample CSV file upload, and click on open. Before I can actually do the uploading, I have to click on this safety check mark, and then I'm going to click on upload. And it takes a couple minutes for it to kind of check to make sure that none of these usernames and passwords have already been used. And it automatically takes you back to the Students tab, and you can see all of those students have been uploaded. And it does say student 0 right here. So sometimes with Scratch, if some number's not right or something, I always like to do the refresh button or the reload button. And now you can see that 49 students now exist within my ECforALL class. And I'm going to go over to that studio I created in the last video and notice that this number has now changed. 49 students match with the 49 students that I have in my class. So all of the students should be able to share their projects to the studio correctly. Finally, you will want to add studios to your class. Remember that studios are like folders where the students share their project links to. In order to create new studios, click on the New Class Studio button. And remember to name your studio something that will be easily recognizable for students when they share their projects. Let's call this Sequence on the Farm. I can enter a studio description if I choose, and then I can click Add Class Studio. You'll notice that the studio has been created. Currently, there are 0 project links saved to the studio, 0 comments on the studio, and also 0 students are allowed to share to the studio. That is because I haven't added my students yet. Just a word of warning, when you do create your studios, you will want to check this number with the number of students that you have added to this class. If these numbers don't match, your students may have problems sharing their links to your studio. One way that might fix this is to open up the studio by clicking on the studio name and checking on the Allow Anyone to Add Projects. Then I'm going to go back to my studios and refresh my screen and check again to see if these two values match. And in my case, they do because I haven't added any students yet. If they still don't match, I recommend deleting the studio and re-adding it again. Good luck setting up your Scratch classrooms.